Jordan Robertson served a series of short-term sentences for violent offences, including attempted murder. He is now building a new life as an artist and trying to steer young people away from a life of crime. Jordan joins us now. Afternoon, Jordan.
Hi, how you doing? You okay?
Very, very well. So you're somebody who has first-hand experience of what it's like to be inside. How have you managed to turn your life around? Because it seems that locking people up, we are led to believe, just kind of without any kind of rehabilitation, puts them in this revolving door of going back inside. So how have you managed to do it?
So I had to do quite an analytical approach to my offending history, and it took me quite some time. And I saw that a recurring theme was drugs were heavily involved in my offending history, whether that was under the influence or what have you. So for me, abstinence was a surefire way to guarantee sustainability out in the community, but that also coincided with purpose. I never had any purpose in life, no ambition, no goals. I left school when I was in fifth year. I had pretty average, okay qualifications as such, but I had no career established. I had no skills or qualification in any particular area. In prison, although it did offer certain modules, it didn't really offer a further career prospect upon leaving prison. So I was fortunate enough where I started playing the guitar in prison, so that gave me a creative outlet. For whilst in prison, I was able to channel my energy, my emotions, my thoughts and my feelings into that. And when I got out of prison, I ventured into social media just by chance. It was the COVID lockdown that had happened, and that the first time in my life eventually gave me some form of purpose, some sort of ambition. It gave me a future where I could actually see, right, I've got something. Because if somebody asked me, what's your 5-year plan or your 1-year plan, 10-year plan, I never had an answer. I would avoid the question. Finally, They gave me that.
Jordan, it sounds like you found that for yourself. How did you get help with the drugs? Did you get help kicking that?
No, not at all. I got off drugs. I stayed off drugs, maintained abstinence. I've maintained that for over 2 years now. That was totally off my own back and going to places like Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff like that. In the prison, the only support I see for drug addicts is prescriptions and harm reduction. Your methadone, like Berlini in Scotland, is the biggest distributor of methadone in Europe. All that does is sustain a drug addiction. It stops people rattling that are coming off of heroin. And what it does is it subdues the prison system, because when methadone first came into the prison system in Shotts Prison, which is a long-term jail, there wasn't a riot for the first 10 years. So similar to your early release scheme, what that done was it eased the burden of the pressure on the prison authority, but it didn't really do anything to stop people wanting to commit crime.
Well, we've got this sort of first part of this review, and we're going to get the full review shortly from former Conservative Justice Secretary David Gauke about, how you solve the problem. We've got too many people in jail. They're releasing prisoners early in Scotland, and they've already done that in England to ease overcrowding. But it doesn't solve the ultimate problem of how you make society safer, balancing punishment for a crime, the relevant punishment for the crime, with rehabilitation. From someone who spent a lot of time inside and managed to turn their life around, what should be top of that list? What does the Justice Secretary need to do?
So what they need to do is a review of the justice system, because what we're looking at, right, because reoffending is a massive cause. If somebody gets sent to jail for their first crime and then they never commit any crime after that, that is a success story in the eyes of the justice system. So I'm going to talk from the perspective of a reoffender and people that consistently commit crimes, and a lot of people that commit the same crimes. We would say these are the true burden on society, especially like violent crime and your sexual crimes and stuff like that. So if I was in the justice system, if we're looking at the courts, if you're looking at somebody that's coming back to court a number of times for very similar offences, you've given them punishment after punishment, you've done community orders, you've eventually put them in prison, and you've given them longer sentences. I think the justice system needs to stop and then take a bit of accountability and go, right, what are we doing wrong here? Because this punishment system we've got set up for this individual isn't working. Right now, what they do, they just accept this person is damaged beyond repair and there's nothing they can do for them, and they become a lost cause. And that's the type of person that keeps getting in and out of the prison system, thus creating more and more victims. And then when you look at the prison system, like Berlini, that has got an inability to offer rehabilitation, because all Berlini is focused on is trying to maintain the function of the jail.
Yeah, listen, I've just been told, actually, because you were in Berlini prison, weren't you? The one where the releases are happening today.
Yep.
Pretty notorious jail. What's it like inside there?
For me, when I first went into Berlin, I felt like I'd stepped into a time warp and ended up back in the 1980s, which is pretty strange because I was born in 1992, so I don't have any concept of what the 80s were like. But what I felt was I'd been in young offenders before that, and where young offenders, it's under 21, it's a lot more immature, there's a lot more energy, it's a lot more laid back in the attitude of the prisoners. When I went into Berlin, it just reeked of desperation because I was going in and I was seeing guys that were 30-year re-offending histories, and a lot of them were petty crimes, shopliftings, thefts. And as I go back to that previous point, they're accumulating that much previous convictions to the point where a simple petty crime is shoplifting, you'd normally get a fine for, they're getting like 12 months for. And a lot of these people are committing crime to supplement and sustain a drug addiction. And for me, when I got there, it looked like the end of the road for a lot of people.
Jordan, thank you so much. It's been really valuable having your insight, and we wish you all the best with whatever lies ahead for you. And congratulations on managing to turn things around.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you take care. Jordan Robertson there, as you just heard, he was in Barlinnie. He was addicted to drugs. He's out, he's clean, and he's built a new life for himself. If you want to comment on that story, please do. You can text us 85058.